Start. Hello and welcome to the European Report. We're here in the European Parliament in the heart of the European Union, and in today's programme we'll be discussing the new Trump administration and what impact will Donald Trump have as US President on European foreign policy towards the Middle East. And so to answer this very important question, I'm joined by a good friend of this programme, Bas Belder, MEP from the Netherlands, Charlotte Gutman, who's representing Belgium and also the Jewish community, and also joined by Ruth Isaac, who's filling in for Thomas Sandel on behalf of the European Coalition for Israel. So welcome to the programme. Bas, I'll start the programme with you. I mean, the last month we've seen dramatic events regarding Israel. Firstly, the UN Security Resolution 2334, which was very biased against Israel. And then we've had the Paris Peace Conference. We've also then had the inauguration of Donald Trump as America's 45th president. How have all these dramatic world events, particularly centering on Israel, had its impact here on the European Parliament and its institutions?
Thank you very much for the question. Firstly, I want to underline that next week was also very important for the European Parliament because our presidential election. And why I'm telling that? Because our new president, Antonio Tajani, I know him personally for years, and especially I have good recollections as a chair of the Israel delegation here, and also now as vice chair. Why? When he was chair, he went with a big commercial delegation, trade delegation to Israel, and he reported fine to all the members of my delegation when he was back. So I have an open door for strengthening the European-Israeli relations on this new position. He's in favor of an open door policy, and he has a good heart for Israel. And last year, for example, when we spoke about anti-Semitism in the Jewish communities, he was heavily involved and so very active. In other words, in this House, the election of Mr. Tajani is good for the EU-Israeli relations, especially with the position of the European Parliament. Coming back to your question, look, what is important here and what should the EP realize, all the members, that what is the reality on the ground and how the Trump administration will behave is, of course, still we are waiting for concrete deeds. But that said, when I see how Israeli academics and Israeli politicians are looking at the prospect already before the election was done in the United States, that was wisdom, that was political insights. What we see here, especially in the Netherlands, is so much bias, especially in the media. So I hope that everything that Trump will do in good terms to Israel is not biased, because it is doing by Trump. And what is important especially, that reality on the ground, that means what I now see is that Trump looks at the whole region. And that is the right approach also for the European Union. That means that in the Arab world, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not number one, totally not. I learned this morning even number 5 or lesser. So a regional context, and all that said, Mogherini and the like, they should look at the United States, what they are going to do, and also Absolutely. To come by with this new administration. So let us see. There's also a lot of talk about the rhetoric of Trump. There's also a lot of European rhetoric. You should come down to the reality, and it means when you are in support of a two-state solution, you should look at the whole region and to be supportive of it, and also to have a clear eye what the American interests are in the region. For that plays the tune there, not Europeans.
Absolutely. Otherwise we could face fireworks. So it's going to be interesting in the months ahead. And Charlotte Gutman, warm welcome back to the programme. It's good to see you back here. You know, you're doing a lot of very good work in the community, but you're also here to represent Belgium and also in UNESCO. So briefly, can you explain what your organisation does and why it matters?
World Ort is an international non-sectarian educational organization. We are an NGO represented at UNESCO in the liaison committee to this organization, and we have in our deeds lots of humanitarian projects that we achieved worldwide.
Excellent.
Also.
So firstly, what's your reaction to UN Resolution 2334 that looked to impose a Palestinian state on Israel and also the recent Paris Peace Conference?
So I must tell you that I was shocked, but not as much as if I would have heard it the first time. I was in UNESCO on April 12th when they voted already against Israel, and it was clear to me that this was the extreme limit of an amazing propaganda campaign because the enemies of Israel are very efficient in this field of explaining lies and using turn speech against Israel. And it's the main tools that became efficient to the ends and this extreme limit that UNESCO and UN voted against the interest of Israel, forgetting the historical past of Israel with this part of the world, with Jerusalem. And this is really the extreme caricature that the world accepts without really reacting to it. And what can we say? It's ignorance. People are not educated about our history in the world. And the temple of David and Solomon in Jerusalem has been reduced to a very little thing, and it's the beginning. It's the beginning. It was already destroyed by Nabucodonosor first time, and then the second time by the Romans in 70 in our era. So it's ignoring the history, the facts, because Islam was created much later.
Absolutely.
And the Ottoman Empire in this region just ended in the 15th century, if I'm right, from the 7th to the 15th century. And you cannot ignore that they came after the Jewish existence, and so it's disturbing. We are a part of a people that are considered by the Christians, and thank you very much for your support in these difficult times. And I must say that I'm shocked. Yes, I'm very shocked, especially when I talk to people who have more experience at UNESCO than I have, and they tell me, you know, your enemies are coming with suitcases full of envelopes and distributing them in the corridors of the UNESCO. So I'm not saying it, I'm just repeating you what I heard. So I didn't see it, but that's what people say. So it's just an amazing, demonic, creative organization that makes me link it to the Nazi propaganda in my thesis that I did, and every day it's just confirming.
Absolutely. So we need to reaffirm our commitment that that Jerusalem belongs to the Jewish people, and this is the home of the Temple Mount, which was the first and second temple, and there's no denying history. Ruth, I want to thank you so much for standing in for Thomas Sandel, who's going to be speaking in US Congress next week, and you deserve a lot of credit for the way you helped organise the ECI rally in Paris. What was it like to be there with so many Christian and Jewish supporters of Israel in protesting against the Paris Peace Conference?
Okay. So first of all, I want to say that it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. There were people from different countries. We didn't know each other. That was the first time we all met each other, and we're all just happy to be there. And you had Christians, you had Jewish people, you have Africans, you have Europeans. It was just a very beautiful atmosphere, and it was a celebration of peace and friendship. So I really enjoyed it. And I want to say that in that conference, something really important happened for me, was that I met somebody who I knew only through a TV report. It was an African young pastor that he had gone in 2015. I'm not sure if some of you might know the story. In 2015, he went to the Temple Mount, and because he was holding something with an Israeli flag on it, basically he was attacked and beaten. There was blood coming out of his head, you know. And he was telling me how it is completely unacceptable to have this level of violence and discrimination and incitement against the Jewish people, but also against every single Christian that dares to support or dares to voice their support for Israel. So, as I said, it was very much a celebration. We really enjoyed it, and I like the solidarity that what I saw. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you, Ruth. And Bas, if it had not been for the British government and Theresa May in actually confronting this shameful resolution, UN Security Resolution, 2334, the Paris Peace Conference would have implemented that declaration and implemented that UN Security Resolution, which effectively means that this would be imposing a Palestinian state on Israel without the Israelis and the Palestinians being able to negotiate a final status agreement. Plus also with this one also means that this limited Israel to its very dangerous borders known as the Auschwitz borders, or the 4th of June 1967. Had and the EU Commission were wanting to implement that declaration, had they done so, what would have the impact been here on supporters of Israel like yourself in the European Parliament in terms of policy?
Let us say, fortunately enough, we have no clout, we have not the power to implement anything in the Middle East, firstly. Secondly, already the thought of the intention is poisonous, is dangerous.
Absolutely.
So I should like that more and more member states become aware that this EU policy of two states in European mindset is totally false. It's totally against the security interest of the State of Israel. I was in December, 1st December, I was for a week with my ECR party bureau in Jerusalem. I spoke with a German military historian, a fellow Christian. And he was quite clear. He showed me documents and told me and let me see his publications on. There is always here the big bone of contention is the settlement policy. The EU has its own settlement policy in Area C, where they are financing Palestinian settlements for so-called Bedouins, but it is quite clearly against international law. For who has there the say? The Israeli government. The Israeli government has let the things go too far, in my view, and now is a confrontation. What is there? There is an EU settlement policy in Area C, so that is preventing a real negotiation process. So who is the obstacle to peace, to a peace process, to even the beginning of a peace process? And I can assure you that this issue of the EU settlement policy I will, in the coming months, together with my colleagues, have here on the agenda. We will have, for we should be quite practical. It is announced that in the next plenary session in February, we will have a debate on the situation on the West Bank. I will ask them, Mrs. Mogherini, what legal nature is there for an EU settlement policy to all the stipulations, all the agreements that there is that military and civil authority on the Israeli side that is really putting a stop to any rational negotiation process. And that is it always is it here on illegal action from the Israeli side. In the European Union, the European Commission, and Mrs. Mogherini should took their hands in their own bosoms, and then and what is important, and that is my main point. Since 1999, I'm here, always about a secure Israeli state in the two-state solution in their option. No, what they are doing, the European Union, is against the security interest of human peoples, Jewish people that have now a home, a safe home for the nation.
Absolutely. Well, I really commend you for doing that, Bas. I think that's extremely important. And, you know, Charlotte, what's your reaction to, firstly, the UNESCO not recognising any Jewish claims to Jerusalem? This is denying Jewish history, the spiritual and political connection the Jewish people have with Jerusalem. And now, particularly with the UN Security Resolution 2334, is actually saying that the international community doesn't recognise Israeli control or rights to the Western Wall, which is the most holiest site in Judaism, also the Temple Mount and the old city of Jerusalem?
So, first I would like to say that East Jerusalem was annexed to Israel, and that the people living there are receiving the advantages of being under Israeli sovereignty.
Yep.
That means they get social security, and even I heard that now there is a list of people from Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, asking for the Israeli ID, because they understand that they have more advantages to become Israeli than to remain in the fight, which is, in my opinion, a political fight, not really objective to Israel. And this fight is blaming Israel again and again and again. Every second line of the resolution you could read the occupied forces, the occupying country. And it's really desperate to read these words because, okay, you have international law, which is the result of a lobbying, efficient lobbying I mentioned before. But these words are really damaging a lot the situation, and that's why they exist. But also, they have absolutely no justification for this part of the world, because occupation is about an invader coming into a sovereign country. If you want to look back to history, maybe you get back to the tribes of Israel, to get back to sovereign countries. So because this region has been occupied again and again until the British mandate.
Yeah.
So, and the San Remo Treaty, that we all know, that was signed in 1920, was clearly acknowledging the country for the Jews in this part of the world. And when you read the chart for the Palestinians, you still see, and these charts were written in 64 and revised in 68,
Yep.
you can read that they consider Palestine to be on the place of Israel. Now, the word Palestine is also misused in a way, because Palestine was, I think, mentioned by Adrian, the Emperor Adrian, the Roman, and at the time, it was not only Muslims, it was also Jewish people, Christian people. So it's not relevant. It's again a big lie, but because it's being repeated and repeated and repeated, people start to believe it. Even the most educated people start to believe in the lies. And Goebbels said, the bigger the lie, the better it will be believed.
Absolutely, and that's why truth is such a powerful weapon, and that's our strongest weapon. Ruth, in terms of mobilising Christians in supporting Jerusalem by letting our political representatives know the crucial issues, and particularly the security issues that Israel face, what role does social media play in mobilising grassroots supporters?
Okay, so I think the impact that social media play is enormous, basically, and there is a lot of lies, like our colleagues just said, and therefore a lot of people nowadays, they are Facebook educated. You know, they will not get their education from university or from home, maybe. You know, so it is really important that we use social media to speak up and offer counter narratives to the lies and the propaganda that we see clearly. You know, some of this propaganda is very, as we said earlier, it is quite professional, you know, the work that they're doing. And as Christians and as ordinary citizens of Europe, we should not be afraid to use social media to come back and tell the truth. Unfortunately, Europeans are not as good, maybe as other nationalities in using social media regarding political issues, but it really makes a very big difference. And I would encourage all of our viewers to make sure, including our politicians, friends, to make sure that they offer the truth.
Absolutely, and you do a great work on the ECI's social media, including Facebook and YouTube, so well done for that, Ruth. Coming down to the last 5 minutes of the programme, so I think we need to have a look at the impact that Donald Trump's presidency is going to have on Europe and European institutions and European foreign policy. I know that, Bas, you're a passionate supporter against the Iran deal. What do you think the impact of Donald Trump now being America's 45th president, and he's already expressed views that he's very much against this Iran deal, how will this have then an impact on EU relations with Iran, and more importantly, how will his presidency have an impact to prevent Iran from developing the world's most dangerous weapon, which is a nuclear weapon?
I must say it is quite interesting that, especially in the last weeks, there's a lot of stuff from excellent Israeli experts on a second chance. What is the second chance after the bad deal of the presidency of Obama delivered here by Mogherini, because they were going along, of course, that there is now a presidency with Trump that wants to reverse this bad deal, and that is, and what is happening, that the second chance is that. And I totally share this, the analysis of several experts on the Israeli side, that there should be a strong and new American-Israeli partnership. Absolutely. That don't tear up the deal, for that then it is Israel's fault, the Iranians go along, not renegotiate, but look at the weak points and be very solid and really uncompromising on Iran, what Iran is doing, not only with the Iranian deal, but also share intelligence on hidden spots, what they are doing, their program, and also what is very important, that the military option should be on the table. There should be strong pressure on the Iranians, and then the Europeans should come along. And what is Iran at the moment doing in the region is totally destabilizing. So it is quite obvious, when there is a strong American-Israeli cooperation and Trump is giving deeds with his words, then I want to see what the Europeans are doing, because what they are now doing is so only business, and with totally disregard of their own security interests, let alone of the precious security interests that they always proclaim that they are backing the Jewish national state. And that is a lie. What they are now doing with Iran, for this totally in contradiction. So I am putting my hope on a strong American-Israeli relationship with the military option on the table, for that counts in that region.
Absolutely. That's a very good analysis, Bas, and I totally agree with you. Charlotte, we're coming down to the last 2 minutes and a half of the programme. It's gone very quick. I have to ask, what is your opinion on Donald Trump's presidency, in particular the policy move to move the US Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? What impact will that have on Israel? What impact will that have on the Jewish community worldwide, realising the world's one and only world superpower recognises Israeli sovereignty over Jerusalem?
It would be a nice achievement. It would be a miracle, which I consider Trump to be somehow. Even if he is a character, I think, I hope that my first impression will show in the end. For more than 2,000 years, we are praying next year in Jerusalem. And so, you know, there was the Jewish exile by the Romans 2,000 years ago. So, yes, it would be a miracle, and I hope it will take place someday.
And what impact do you think this will have on the rest of Europe? Because this goes contrary to European policy.
Yes, yes, because we are in a contradictory situation. Absolutely, it's not really politically correct to say that the embassy will be in Jerusalem, but still, it would be an amazing recognition for what Jews have done in this world, for what Israel has achieved so far on the different levels that I don't need to mention. It can be any level. And I hope, and we pray, we continue to pray for next year in Jerusalem.
Absolutely, that'd be an amazing celebration.
Biblically saying, are on the Jewish side, because the Lord of Israel
No, absolutely. So very quickly, Ruth, how can our viewers become more of a digital ambassador for Israel and be actually involved in social media so they can put Israel's case forward?
Okay. First of all, ECI itself, we have a Facebook page, we have Twitter, and we encourage all of the viewers to obviously follow us and share some of our content. If they have any ideas, we're also very open to suggestions, and especially from young people. We want to be reaching, our website is ec4i.org, and our Facebook page is European Coalition for Israel. I want to obviously thank MEP Bas Belder for his support for Israel. And I just want to say that I heard with my own very ears Federica Mogherini saying that for her it is #1 priority to deal with the issue of Israel. And we want to make sure that the European citizens and the taxpayers, they need to know that this is what their government and what EU are doing. And if they don't agree, and if they prefer some attention and money to be given towards the Syrian refugees and other humanitarian crises in Israel, they need to let the representatives know, first of all, by writing to them, but also on social media. This really counts. People do follow what the opinion of the public is.
Excellent. So I just want to thank everyone for being on this edition of the European Report, and want to thank you for watching this programme here from the European Parliament in the heart of the European Union. And as we discussed, we're seeing monumentous events shaping our world today, and that's why it's important that we keep our political representatives to account, particularly over important issues like Jerusalem. And also be very interesting to see what happens if America moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and the fallout here in the European Union. So thank you for watching today's programme.